Hey, this is Dennis Demori, and in today's presentation, we're going to be talking about retainers. Now, I don't have a fancy video with jump cuts, and I don't have slides prepared for you. All I have is an ugly Google Doc. But the process I'm going to share with you can potentially put a lot of money in your pocket. This is a process I've used personally and a process that my students have used to land retainer clients. So, number one, what is a retainer? The way I see retainers, these are medium to long-term packages that you sell clients. So you have a set number of things, tasks, or projects you're going to do for a client in a certain time frame. Usually that's a month. Usually these are monthly retainers. And you sell that as a package that you are going to execute month after month after month. That's all it is. Versus a project. A project has a clear beginning and end. For example, writing a welcome sequence for clients. You do the sequence, it's done, and then that's it. The project is over. A product launch is a popular project. Project has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then it's done. Retainers don't work that way. Retainers are ongoing. So could be something like a daily email package, could be something like an e-commerce package where you write 2 campaigns a week and work on some flows every month. Lots of different ways you can do that. But the main idea is that this is ongoing work you are doing for clients. Cool? So let's move forward. We're going to go section by section so we don't jump ahead. So, why should you want retainers? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't go for retainers. There are some freelancers out there that do well with with projects, and they just do one project after another. Maybe they have a big pool of clients that they work with, and they get enough work from that they don't do retainers, and that's totally fine. However, there's a few reasons that I like retainers, and especially for beginners, I think retainers are something you should consider. So here's why. First, if you picture a barbell like a barbell at a gym, you have this long bar with 2 ends to it. And on one end, and there's a lot of different ways you can think of this, but for this example, on one end, you have retainers. And on the other end, you have one-off projects. Now, here's the problem. What most freelancers do who are new to this, or who maybe have a little bit of experience but are struggling, is they do lots of one-off projects. So what happens is they end up in feast or famine mode, where income is up and income is down. Income is up, income is down. And they spend a lot of time trying to find clients. Personally, if you guys follow me online, I don't spend that much time compared to some other copywriters posting content to try to attract clients. Why? Because I tend to find good clients and work with them for a long time. My best clients tend to work with me for at least 1.5 years. So that means I can spend more time actually doing the work, which is helping my clients, versus marketing my business. And when you're constantly doing these one-off projects, it just increases your risk because you don't know how those projects are going to turn out, especially if you start playing with performance deals, which can backfire on you. And I'm not anti-performance deals, but that's just a risk that you have to watch out for. So if we go back to the barbell, on one side, we got retainers. On the other side, we have one-off projects. And what I would encourage you to do, if you want cash flow, consistent cash flow, and stability in your business, is to put more of your energy behind retainers. Try to get a couple retainer clients so that you have that steady cash flow month after month. Now, will you lose clients? Sure, it happens. It happens all the time, and often for reasons that are outside of your control. However, if you do follow this retainer model, then you can help minimize the ups and downs of your business. And there's a couple big benefits with that. One is that you become less needy because you know you can almost guarantee that you have money coming in, and you already know how it is coming in every month. So that if you are going to go after future opportunities, future clients, future projects, you're not going to be as needy about it because you know no matter what, you still got your bases covered. And then secondly, you can take more risks. So if you want to try those 100% performance deals, but you don't get paid anything upfront by the client, you can do that knowing that, you know what, if it doesn't work, you still got your retainer income coming in. Let's move on to the next section. Okay. So next obvious question is, well, how do you find these retainers, right? And of course, there's a lot of different lead gen methods out there. They all work. You just got to find one or two that work for you. And I'm not going to get into all of them now. That's not what this presentation is about. Unless you're brand new, you already know how to get clients. Cold email, cold outreach, events, paid ads, posting on social media, referrals, right? None of this is new to you. You already know this stuff. But let's talk about a little more about what actually makes a good retainer client, because I think that's going to be more helpful to you. So, one, there needs to be an ongoing need. If there's not an ongoing need, you're not going to have ongoing work. So, for example, sometimes clients come to you and they say, hey, I need a sales letter. But is that an ongoing need? For most businesses, no. It can be if you're working with a company that's like really into direct response and does lots of testing of sales letters, like a financial publisher. That's different. For most clients, they are primarily going to need lots of emails, maybe ads, but usually emails. And emails work out great for retainers because you're going to be doing 3, 4, 5, 6 or more every week. Plus, if you do anything with autoresponders, you have that as well. And then you have the optimization and the testing and all of that. So there's an ongoing need for that type of work. That's why one of the reasons I like emails a lot for retainers. Something else you got to do that most freelancers shy away from is you got to run the numbers. I was just having this conversation with one of my students about 20 minutes ago. You have to run the numbers with clients. So you need to know how much is this gonna cost them, right? What are you gonna charge for a retainer? But also, how much can they potentially make working with you? Okay, what does that look like? Because let's say, for example, you want to charge $2,000 a month, but your client's only making $4,000 a month. That's not going to work because they probably have expenses as well, right? So those numbers don't make sense. However, if you're pitching a $5,000 retainer and you know that your client makes on average $75,000 or $80,000 a month, and it's a low overhead business, then those numbers could work. So you need to figure that stuff out, and you need to talk to your clients. I know a lot of freelancers feel awkward about this, but you need to sit down with your client, get on Zoom or whatever, and have this conversation with them, because a good business owner is going to want to talk numbers. And the more you know, the better. So you can be in a better position to sell the retainer and also to create a win-win deal that makes sense for both sides. Moving on. So how do you sell these retainers? You know you need a client with an ongoing need. Maybe you see that they have a need for lots of emails. You've gone over some of the numbers with them. They look good. You think that they can make at least 10 times more what you charge them. So check. Everything looks good. Now, how do you actually sell them? So what I recommend in most instances is you start with a trial offer, which is just another way of saying a test project. Sometimes you can go straight into retainer. That's fine. There's no rule that says you can't. I've done that as well. But I do tend to like starting with a trial. That's what I recommend for students too. Start with a trial. There's no reason to rush into these things. If you're looking for long-term relationships with clients, which is what I think you should be doing, especially with retainers, then there's no need to rush. So start with a small test project. It could be something like an abandoned cart sequence if you're into e-commerce. It could be something like 3 emails that are going to promote one of their popular products to see if you can generate some sales for them. So something that you can do with a quick turnaround time that gets results and that shows the client you're easy to work with, you hit deadlines, and you do what you say you're going to do. Then, assuming it goes well, you can upsell them into a retainer. I've seen this happen again and again and again, where you start with a test project, goes well, and then the client says, hey, we did really well on this project. I was wondering if you could do some more work for me. And that makes it much easier for you to sell a retainer than just kind of coming in cold and expecting a client to pay you thousands of dollars a month when they don't have that relationship established with you. So that's one big thing. Start with the trial. Now, once you start working together, one of the first things that I would recommend is doing an audit of their marketing. So what are they doing? What are they not doing? What's strong? What's weak? Where are the gaps? So for example, you might see that they don't have a welcome sequence set up. Maybe that's a project you could do for them. You might see that they're only sending 2 emails a week when they could probably be doing 5 emails a week. You might see that they have certain products that they, for whatever reason, they haven't been promoting. So you want to take a look at the whole business and see what's going on there so you can start making recommendations. And the recommendations is going to be this next part here, which is the marketing map. So, or marketing plan. Call it whatever you want. But the idea is, now that you've done this assessment or this audit, you can come to the client with a plan and say, look, I looked at everything and I noticed X, Y, and Z. So this is why I think these are the main things we should focus on for the next 30 days or the next 60 days or whatever, and why. And you start to prioritize them and build a plan for each one. And clients like this because one thing clients don't want to do is constantly tell you what to do. They don't want to tell you how to do your job. What I found, one of the ways to get away from this client freelancer relationship where the client's giving you direction is to approach it like a collaborative team, approach it like partners. And when you come to the client with this marketing plan, now you're equals sitting at the table, and the client's going to be like, hey, this person is great. They're really useful. They're really helpful to my business. I don't have to constantly think of this stuff. They're thinking for me. They're thinking 3 months ahead of time. I hadn't even thought about yet. I haven't thought about Black Friday. I haven't even thought about this product launch yet. So when you approach things this way, you start to become a valuable partner. And those are some of the biggest things you can do to sell these retainers. So let's go on to the next section here. And this is the final section because we don't want this to be, this presentation to be pretty short today. This is not the first time I presented on retainers. I do have a workshop I presented that's about 2.5 hours long. So I'm just giving you like the ultra condensed version of it. And I'm sure we're going to have some links below this video, so look for that. But let's wrap up. So last thing I want to share with you is working with clients, because everyone gets really excited about the sale and then they drop the ball. So we don't want that to happen. You've sold the retainer. Now what? So the main thing here is that you want to think of yourself as a project manager. Okay? You're not just an email copywriter. You're not just writing the email copy. What you are doing besides that is acting kind of like a project manager, where you think and plan ahead, which I've already touched on. And what I would do is, once you've done this marketing audit, is you're going to rank all the projects and all the little tasks that need to be done. You can use a spreadsheet, you can use Airtable, whatever you want, but make a big master list of all these things that you share with a client, so they know what is coming down the pipeline. And you're going to rank these things. You're going to prioritize them. So you can say, look, we're going to do this in February. We're going to do this in March, this in April. And then it's just kind of assumed you're going to continue working together, because you've already talked about these things. Client okays it, approves it. And so this is a much different dynamic than going like project to project, or you work with a client for 1 month and you're not sure what's going to happen next month, and then you have that awkward conversation at the end of the month where you're like, maybe we work again next month, I don't know. This way you are working like a team together and thinking on and executing on the future. So this also means creating timelines, creating a promotional calendar, which is a really good idea, so that I know what products can be promoted this week or for this season or for this holiday, and what exactly that's going to look like, how many emails we're going to send out, what those emails are going to be about. Depends how specific you want to get there. But it's a good idea to have that promotional calendar. I would say at least 30 days out. Everyone does it differently, but at least a month out, so you know what's coming up, and so that you're just not doing everything reactively and at the last minute. So you'll have that calendar done. You'll have milestones that you're going to hit. For example, like whether that's a revenue target, or maybe that's just like a open and close of enrollment for a launch. And then there's the reporting part of it as well, which is weekly check-ins, which I think are a great idea. I like doing that on Mondays with clients typically, where we talk about what happened the prior week and then what needs to happen the upcoming week. It's also a good idea to do monthly reports, and that's where I would recommend sharing some data. So this is how many units we sold. This is what revenue looked like. This is what churn looked like. These are how many members we got into the community, stuff like that. So now we've gone beyond email copywriting into more of a project manager / fuller stack email marketer / kind of like chief marketing officer role. And this is going to depend on the size of the company. Like if you're just working with a solopreneur and it's just you and him, that's different than working for an e-com brand with 50 employees. Totally different. But the idea is the same. So you're going to oversee a lot of the marketing, plan it, help execute it, and that way you become a valuable partner to your clients versus just an order taker, which is what happens to a lot of freelancers. Okay? So that's all I got for you. Hope you got something out of this presentation. I'm sure we'll have some links below this video. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can always find me on Facebook, Twitter,